This is one of those mornings where I ask you all to fasten your seatbelts, put on your crash helmets, and get ready to just let it be. It's going to be different today. It is already different today. And I am deeply, deeply grateful for each of you here. Jason, thank you. Tim, thank you. Al. We have an all-male crew this morning. Even our ushers are all male. So isn't that the coolest thing? So, when I started out thinking that we were going to talk about the beloved community, it was because this is the end of Black History Month, and there's a lot of talk about Martin Luther King, and I thought it was terribly, terribly important for us to talk about who and what we are as a community. And so it isn't hard. You go to Google and you put in beloved community and cool stuff comes up, and I want to tell you where I started. If you look at Martin Luther King's definition of a beloved community, he says that fundamental to the concept of the beloved community is inclusiveness, both economic and social. The beloved community describes a society in which all are embraced and none are discriminated against. In highly unequal countries like the United States, health outcomes and social well-being suffer. We don't live as long as our peers in more equal countries, nor do our infants or children. We're fatter. More of our teens get pregnant. We incarcerate more of our citizens. Our children score worse on math. And we trust one another less, and we kill one another more. Greater inequality of income leads to generalized societal dysfunction. And we all correctly perceive that we are not all in the same boat. It turns out that the lower one is on the social scale, the lower one's life expectancy. The higher you go, the better your chances of surviving. And as humans, we are exquisitely attuned to our class standing. Turns out that social status is the most powerful detriment of health. This is all very bleak, and someday I would love to have a talk about all that. Someday we'll do just a straight-out social justice and the Bible and spirituality talk, because that's not where this talk went this morning. When I was in seminary, I had this wonderful, amazing homiletics professor who said, there are 3 things you got to remember about a talk. The first is you have to talk about what's going on in the world. Do not ever build your talk, say this is going to be your talk, and there might be all kind of stuff going on in the world, and you do this talk anyway. You talk about teddy bears and rainbows and and there's a lot going on over here, and you don't address it. So always talk about what's going on in the world. The next thing you do is you push it through the sieve of the gospel. Okay, now in the Episcopal Church, there's a gospel reading every morning and every Sunday, well, every day actually, and you take whatever your thought is and you push it through and see what comes out. Okay, in this case, this is unity, and I've decided that I would rather not do the Bible. Shock and scandal, I'm not doing Bible this morning, but the fact is we're going to push it through the sieve of lessons in truth. Okay? You're tired of hearing Bible, I know. All right. And then the final thing is always leave people feeling better than when they came in. So we'll see. Let's see how it turns out. So, first decision was, no matter how much I thought about I was going to preach about social justice, I really have to talk about the pandemic. It's either pandemic or politics. I mean, that's all that you can get. That's all that's going on, apparently, in the world. So we're going to talk a little about the pandemic. But if I'm going to talk about that, I have to think about the metaphysical meaning of it. What is the metaphysical meaning of this pandemic? What is going on? What does it mean to be sick? If we're beyond the physical, then what is the metaphysical interpretation of what we're doing here? So, the minute you're talking about health and metaphysical interpretation of anything in health in Unity, you go to Emily Cady's Lessons in Truth. If you want me to say that again, Emily Cady's Lessons in Truth. This is a book that was written in 1896. It's a course of roughly 12 lessons in practical Christianity, and it's considered one of the core basic teachings. I urge you all, and Christine, I'm so sorry I didn't warn you that I'm going to tell people to go down to the bookstore and buy Lessons in Truth if you don't currently have it. You don't have to read it all at once. It's the sort of thing you put by your bedside. You can pick it up and read a lesson here and a lesson there. It is a basic to Unity thinking and Unity thought. And in the 7th lesson, Emily Cady is talking about the changes in the world. And she talks about a phrase called chemicalization. Right? Now, chemicalization is that thing that illustrates what takes place in our minds and our bodies when we have lived with one thought that maybe isn't quite right, but we've lived with it forever, and we discover that there's a better way of thinking about things. It's kind of like a new relationship. For a while, everything is new and glorious, and it's just so wonderful. And then a sort of mental ferment sets in. Gradually, maybe things don't look so good. Maybe the new relationship, the person isn't quite what you thought. Maybe you have to decide whether you want to live with it or not. Or, another way of putting it, sometimes we choose to stay with the hell we know rather than the heaven that we don't. We make those decisions all the time, every day. And what happens when we hear a new and a better, Cady calls it truth. I'm very careful about that word because there's so many different definitions of truth, but when we hear a new and better way of doing things and being things, it's good, but it clashes with our old mortal thoughts. And our old thoughts kick up a fuss. They don't want the new ideas. I'm happy, I've been here, I've been helping you all these years, says my old thought. What do you mean you're bringing in something new? Agitation sets in. We get agitated, and frequently we get sick. Often in Unity, when someone is sick, someone will say, what else is going on in your life? Right? It's a slippery slope. We have to be very careful not to say, what are you doing to cause this? But sometimes in the process of chemicalization, we do get sick. And something, according to Cady, whenever this chemicalization happens, we walk through it, and something better and higher always results. Okay, so now I've got you all thinking about chemicalization, and we're not going to sail on past it. You will never forget this particular service. Richard, would you come help me? That's one thing you got to know about being married to a minister. You're never, ever safe. No matter what you do, we're going to be looking for help. We're going to be looking for stories. So I'm asking Richard to help me today, and we're going to demonstrate chemicalization to you, because I so think we have gotten in the habit of sticking to our old mortal thoughts that even though things are getting better, we don't know it. So I want you also to help me if you can think of things that are better, right? Not worse, better. So in this case, we're going to start with justice. We're working on justice. We've taken some steps backward, but we're taking steps forward. Life is changing at a rapid rate, and in spite of some setbacks, things are still mostly better. But our old ways are agitating. And they agitate, and they agitate, and they kick up a fuss, and we get more and more fuss, and it's more and more fuss, and it gets worser and worser. Technology and new inventions are leveling the playing field, but the old stuff doesn't like it. We are developing renewable energy. Food is cleaner, medicine is better, disease is less terrifying. And our old ways are saying, yeah, but look at all the things that are wrong. Chemicalization. I wonder, are we agitating? Because nothing is going fast enough. Nothing is ever good enough. Have we built our expectations so high that we can't meet them? Are we, on a global, universal scale, chemicalizing? Are we making ourselves sick? That's a thought. Something to think about, a new way of looking at it. And the first reaction when I thought that myself was, no, I can't say that. And then I thought, why can't I say that? This pandemic's all over the world. Everybody's got a problem. Everything's going wrong. And yet last week or the week before or a month before, all we could talk about was, oh, this is bad and that's bad and this is bad. Are we making ourselves sick? The next one I want to talk about quickly is equal opportunity. Things are better, but people don't want them to be better. Women can vote. Oh, but they've got all these problems why they don't vote and they should vote. The hashtag #MeToo movement has made the workplace a safer place for women. Equal pay is closing in. Oh, yeah, but it isn't here yet. And frankly, I've got a problem because it isn't there. Class struggle. Oh, the 1%. No. But it is better than it was. Some say yes, some say no. And in the name of don't move too fast, are we longing for the good old days? Are we longing for the time when boys were boys and girls were girls and everything was clear? But in the process, are we forgetting how hard life really was? And how much easier in so many ways life is now? Again, are we agitating ourselves into this? Are we chemicalizing to the point that we're making ourselves sick? We're forgetting where the good is in all this? Now, I know it's a stretch. I get it. But I also know that there is a very strong conservative point of view across the world that is longing for the way things were. And it's putting up a fuss. Would you pour a little more in either one? I don't care. There's a very great power of make it bubble, make it come over, make it. There's a very great power of people afraid of losing power. And there's much to be said for social justice and equal opportunity. And I think this demonstrates what we're doing across the world. But I think also that we're leaving one thing out. We are leaving out the quality and the power of love. For all of our talk and all of the advancements that we have made and the progress we have longed for, we have gotten all tangled up and forgotten to mention love. Love is that infinity of our very being. It's the power that makes up everything. Unity lives by 5 basic principles. We talk about them. If you can't remember them, that's okay. They got these little cards in the bookstore. I know it took me a couple years. I had to carry it around with me to remember all 5. But first, you remember that God is everything and everywhere present. Everything is God. Everything, including us, right? Each of us is the spark of divinity, and we have to love our neighbor. even though it's very hard. Our minds create our reality, and that's where chemicalization comes in. If we are living in fear, fear of the pandemic, fear of the election, fear of the economy, aren't we really making everything worse? Aren't we really, really trying to cling and hold and hang on to the old? Are we forgetting that life really is better? And in our fear, are we forgetting to pour love into the universe and thereby be the change that we wish to make? Fourth principle, you got to remember to pray. That's how we communicate internally and externally, so don't forget. Always pray and meditate, however that works. And finally, if our minds are creating our reality, I want to try a little something with you with the prayer for protection. We're going to do it as call and response. All right? I'm going to say, fear has no power over me. And I'll have you all say it. And then I will say, why not? And you will say, because the light of God surrounds me. I will say, and what else? And you will say, the love of God enfolds me. And I'll say, so? And you say, the power of God surrounds me. And again, I say, well, that's nice. And then you say, wherever I am, God is. So you ready? Let's see if we can do this. Okay, so say this with me. First of all, together we all say, fear has no power over me. Ready? Fear has no power over me. And I'm saying, why not?
The light of God surrounds us.
Yeah, what else?
The love of God enfolds us.
So?
The power of God protects us.
And that matters why?
The presence of God watches over us.
And?
Wherever we are, God is.
And together let's say, that is why I am not afraid. That is why I am not afraid. Let's say it all a little bit louder. That is why I am not afraid. All right. That's prayer. Okay? In the middle of the night, 3 a.m, it really works. Okay? Truly, trust me, as one who has to do it a lot. Really works. And then principle 5, we have to get moving. All right? Time is it what it is. We have to be prepared. If it is a pandemic, make a plan, wash our hands, stock up on a little extra food and water, wash our hands. Don't believe everything we hear on TV, but do listen to the CDC. And oh, by the way, wash our hands. Right? Martin Luther King tells us that the desired end is reconciliation. The end is the creation of our beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that transforms opponents into friends. It is this type of understanding and goodwill that transforms the deep gloom of the old world and brings us into the exuberant gladness of the new. It is this love which brings about miracles, and in the hearts of all humanity makes us one. And so it is. We're going to do the affirmation. I want you to repeat after me. We are the beloved community. The beloved community. We affirm faith, hope, love, courage, and devotion to one another. Amen.